past, British food may have had a reputation problem, but look closer and you'll find a thriving world of small producers making incredible things. This series celebrates those unsung heroes, showing how their craft brings better flavour, a healthier environment and economy, and a richer food culture for all of us. In this episode, I'm going to explore one of my favourite things, cheese. And in a county like Devon, renowned for its dairy products, I'm excited to find out how small producers are leading the way. So I found my way down to South Devon to speak to Greg Parsons from Sharpham Dairies. Greg.
Hello David, how are you?
How are you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you.
So we are at Sharpham.
We are. That's what it says on the sign.
But it's not where it's always been. Tell me a little bit about that.
So previously, it used to be the other side of the River Dart, 2 miles that way approximately, on the Sharpham estate. That's where cheese making all started, 1981, Morris Ash, Ruth Ash. Made in the kitchen, made in a small dairy in the courtyard, then to a purpose-built dairy that was a little bit smaller than this one. Mark Sharman was the main sort of instigator of the cheese and wine development on the estate with his partner Debbie. And we were introduced in 2019 because Mark wanted to retire and looking for somebody who really was looking to buy a cheese business, and they found us.
And tell us a little bit about where we are today, because we're at the South Devon Food Hub. This is where you've been really just for what, the last kind of 12 or 18 months or so.
Yeah.
What is it and what's the kind of philosophy behind it?
Yeah, so for some time we've been sort of big promoters of collaboration. You know, we're very lucky in Devon. We have a fantastic larder of food and drink producers and hospitality businesses, but in the wider southwest that's the case. So we're really keen to kind of make sure that where there are opportunities to work together, we do so. Where there are opportunities to jointly promote and give people, give the public, give the consumers more understanding of how food is made and developed and sold. So here we've got a variety of business. We've got a gin maker, we've got a cider maker, got a chocolate maker, we've got a coffee roaster. We're shortly going to have in the construction next door a vegetable processor processing vegetables, surplus vegetables from Riverford. Ian and Julie, the landlords here at the South Devon Food Hub, they have a similar passion. They've had a life in farming, and they kind of, as well as kind of being at the hub of bringing people together, are quite keen to kind of put something back into that industry as well. Okay, so do you want to take us inside? We can go and have a look at where all the cheese is made, and you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you're doing it. Come on in.
Cool.
We're going to have to get you dressed in some silly gear.
I'm used to that now. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, and the beard.
Lots of hand washing today.
Yeah.
Here we've got our cheese vats. So this holds about 1,500 litres of milk. This one holds about 1,000. And then you can see behind you, you've got some different shapes and sizes. These are the ones we use to make our semi-hard cheeses.
And how does what you're doing here differentiate from maybe cheese at sort of a big scale? And what can you do here to kind of like improve the flavour and the product by working at this kind of smaller scale?
Yeah, I guess it's attention to detail. So if you go into a bigger cheese dairy, you know, and I used to work for the bigger companies, you know, you don't even see the milk really until it's kind of it's turned into cheese at the end of the process. It will come in a milk tank, it will go into stainless steel, and then it will come out at the end through a continuous process. So there's no opportunity to intervene at any stage if something's not quite right. But to mitigate any challenges, what they'll do is standardise things. So you've got a very standard process. So they're aiming for a very narrow variation. They're aiming for a very standard product that's going to probably go into a supermarket and probably be very stable and similar from the point it enters the shelf, or goes onto the shelf, to the point that it's consumed. Whereas what we're happy to do is to nurture a product that's going to continue to grow and develop throughout its life. So we don't standardise the milk, we take the milk as it is. So seasonally, that will vary in butter, fat and protein content. So then that's down to the skills of the people in here to then adjust, and it may be about timing, it may be about temperature, or it may be about the level of rennet or cultures that are added. So
it sounds a little bit like wine in that respect, that you get good seasons maybe, or that the flavour might change over the season, or
yeah, right? I mean it's more so with us. So we've got our own herd of cows. We take milk from those cows, but we also supplement that with a couple of other Devon farms. Those farms vary a little bit, at times of year and at times within the cow's cycle, as well. So one of the joys I get, and I love milk, which is pretty lucky, is every morning I'll taste every drop of milk that's made into cheese. I'll taste. If there's a taint in that milk, we'll then, if it's severe, we'll stop.
What do you mean by taint?
We had an example in the old dairy where a goat's milk supplier had changed the feed for his goats without telling us. And so I tasted the milk and think, actually, there is something a bit metallic in it, funny enough. So I actually went out to the farm, tasted the feed, and lo and behold, I took some milk out with me. This was the taste coming through. So it's so the milk is very influential. So this is Ticklemore cheese, Ticklemore goat's cheese. So Ticklemore goat's cheese is our biggest selling cheese outside of the West Country. So in the southwest it's Sharpham Dairy, outside is Ticklemore cheese. It's famed for its shape that some say looks a bit like a UFO, but this comes from the original colander that it's made in, which is these ones. The only pressing they'll get is in the cheese room is just a gentle press by hand, and that'll only happen in that room. From here on, they'll stay in their moulds until they're then moved into trays. They'll be turned once a week after their initial brining process that we're going to see next.
And does that process change the flavour or the texture? How does it?
In terms of the turning?
Hand pressing as well.
Yeah, so for us, the hand pressing gives us the texture we want. So we're trying to create, with Ticklemore especially, it's strange, but people love it because it's not an overly goaty, because we use really fresh milk, and it's got a texture that's almost a little bit like feta. It's quite chalky, and that, if we were to compress it, it would become more like a cheddar. And great, so that's not what we're aiming for. And that's what people know our cheeses for, whether it's rustics, whether it's the Ticklemore, whether it's the savour. They're sort of, people like the fact that kind of they're different in texture than what they might get from a supermarket, really. That's what we're going for. So we've got Ticklemore, and then we've got cremette here, which you can see is in a different mould. Cremette is a very difficult cheese to make because it's a high moisture. We add cow's double cream to goat's milk, which makes the curds very, very, they have to be handled very subtly. They're very sensitive. So there's only a couple of people who are allowed to make it, and one of them is not me. So literally, normally, as opposed to cutting of the curds that you'll get with the semi-hard cheeses, these will be scooped into the moulds and they'll be turned very, very gently.
I was then taken on a journey through a labyrinth of different rooms, from brining rooms to ripening rooms to storerooms, each with their own temperature, their own individual smell, and their own unique function in the chain. And through that process, you could see how the cheese arrived in its final state, ready to eat. So maybe we should eat some. So this is the fun bit.
Yeah. Cheese.
We've seen what was happening in the factory. And you talked through some of the processes, but what have we got here?
Yeah, so I think I want to emphasise some of the things that, because we're small and because we're handmade, some of the things we can perhaps do that are a little bit different to the norm. We're able to mix milks, and we mix milk with cream, and we mix milks of different types. So an example would be, this is Rushmore, which is a mixture of cow's milk and goat's milk, about 40% goat's milk. Made by accident originally when the milk was delivered into the wrong tank, but we made it into cheese. The cheese sold very well, so we've remade it since for the last couple of years. And this combination of milk doesn't sort of end up with either a goaty or a sort of classic cow's milk flavour. It ends up with something in between. You get quite a sort of savoury, creamy, tangy cheese, and it behaves differently. It'll often develop as it ages a bit more of a discoloured rind.
How aged is that one then?
So this will be quite young. This will be about 5 or 6 weeks old.
Is that quite a theme with what you do? I kind of feel like Sharpham's got a lighter, sort of fresher taste than a lot of cheese. Well,
the thing about it is we don't press anything by machine, as you've seen. Everything's just pressed gently by hand on day one. And that means that we can't age them for too long. And neither do we want to, really. We want that nice freshness. We want to be able to distinguish in those subtle flavours. This is cremette, which is a mixture of goat's milk and cow's double cream, which creates this. Some people are a little bit hesitant when it comes to goat's milk. because it can be a bit bitter, a bit acrid in its flavouring. But what we get with cremette, and this is a really ripe example, is the kind of double cream sort of nullifies the some of that bitterness, and then you get this really sort of unctuous, savoury and creamy delight. And it's our only cheese to win 3 stars great taste. So we're really pleased with that. This is absolutely banging. This is at the end of its life, because soft cheese has a use by date. But that means that for me, it's at its absolute best.
Leaking onto the plate.
Exactly. This would walk home if you gave it the opportunity. But this is how people like it. And when we're eating soft cheese, we're getting hopefully a triple experience of the rind having a sort of life of its own, nice and savoury. Then you get the creaminess of the middle bit, and then
creamy,
together,
isn't it? It really, I think that's one of the defining characteristics of that one, isn't it? That it's got cream coming through.
Yeah. And then we've got another one here, which is just a little cheese that we've just started making recently. We like a collaboration. This is a collaboration with South Devon Chili Farm, and it's our rustic with smoked chilies, smoky rather than spicy. But what we can also see here is, as you saw when you went into the dairy, is that we use different moulds for different things. Some of them are moulds, and we're always set out to be moulds, like we use for the soft cheeses. Some of them started life as colanders. Things like sycamore that's growing rapidly, especially outside of Devon. Now it's a challenge to keep up with that, to keep finding the moulds. So generally they're in hardware shops. We go in and sweep the shelves.
I had this vision earlier of a mum in Totnes coming in and sort of going, why can't I find a colander in a 5-mile radius?
Exactly. So sycamore in particular has got a really distinctive shape. It looks like a UFO. So what we're having to do now, with the help of modern technology, is actually to have an injection mould form made, so that then they can be printed indefinitely. Made indefinitely, because otherwise we're going to grind to a halt, not being able to get the shape.
Do you ever get sick of eating cheese?
I love it, and not only ours, but I like most cheeses. I just think it's the ultimate ready-to-eat food, isn't it? You go to the fridge, it's ready. You don't need to do any preparation; it's just ready to eat. I mean, it's nice to be out and get into room temperature and all that, but I think there's just such variety, and it's not ultra-processed. It's a food that is naturally made with good. In this case, good local ingredients. The short answer to the question is I never get tired of cheese.
I think it brings so much joy. It's one of those things that when you kind of mention the word cheese, most people's eyes just light up, don't they?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't actually know that many people who don't like cheese. It's just like one of those things, isn't it?
We were with friends on Saturday night, and they'd got some cheeses from us for this party, and we were like celebrities. It's like, oh, these guys are here. They brought the cheese, and it was amazing. But and it just becomes a real. I don't know. It invites itself to a party, doesn't it? It has its own character, we love that.
Brilliant.